Hello everyone. In this video, I will introduce you to circles and we will discuss some terms related to circles, some basic definitions which are related to circles. So, in your day to day life, you must have come across many objects which are round in shape. For example, if you look at the wheels of a car or wheels of a cycle, they are round in shape. If you look at rupee one rupee coins, they are round in shape. If you look at the clock in your house, they are round in shape, right? Or you must have seen rings. The ring in a key is also round in shape. So all these are circular objects which are round in shape, right? You must have seen clock in your home, that is also round in shape. Now if you think of this as a clock, the second hand keeps moving in a circular region, in a round region, right? The path that it traces is called a circle. So this is basically a circle. So you must have seen more objects other than the ones I've listed here in your day-to-day life. Okay, so can you put two or three round objects that you have seen in your day-to-day life in the comments? Now, formally talking about what is a circle. Okay, so we will look at the definition of circle now and some related terms to the circle. Now, let's say I have a point here with me, one point, and I want to find out all those points which are at a distance of 1 centimeter from this point. So what I will go towards my right, 1 centimeter I'll mark here. So this is my point. I'll go to my left, 1 centimeter I'll mark. This is my point. I will go in the top direction, 1 centimeter I'll mark my point. I'll come down one direction. I'll mark my point at 1 centimeter. So this I can do actually in all the directions. Okay, I'm just drawing a rough figure. This is not a perfect one. So basically what I'm doing from the fixed point, I'm figuring out all those points which are at the distance of 1 centimeter. That actually forms a circle. So collection of all the points which are at a distance of 1 centimeter from this point actually gives you a circle. So now on this boundary which I marked, if you pick up any point, then the distance of that from here will be 1 centimeter. No matter in which direction you go, that will be 1 centimeter. Okay. So basic definition of a circle is what? Okay. So this is formal definition of a circle. Circle is the collection of all the points in a plane. The collection of all the points in a plane which are at a fixed distance, which are at a fixed distance from a fixed point is called a circle. I hope the definition is clear. So collection of all the points in the plane which are at a fixed distance from a fixed point is called a circle. Now if I draw a circle here, okay, so of some random fixed point here, this fixed point I'll call O. Now this fixed point O is called the center of the circle. Okay, the fixed point O in this figure is called center of the circle. In the fixed distance that we are talking about, this distance, I'll mark this point P. This OP is called the radius of the circle. Okay, the fixed distance OP is called the radius of the circle. Now the word radius has two meanings here. This length OP, the line segment OP is also the radius and its length is also the radius. So OP here, the line segment OP is called radius and the length of the line segment OP is also called radius. Okay. So technically, if you see, it has two meanings. It's the line segment is also called the radius, whereas and its length is also called as the radius of the circle. Okay. I hope up till here it's fine. Now, a circle, if you see, if you take a piece of a paper and if you draw a circle on it, it divides the paper into three parts. Okay. A circle divides the plane. A circle divides the plane in three parts. Now, which are those three parts? The inside region, which I'm shading right now, that's the interior part of the circle, inside part. Okay. The boundary of the circle, that is the circle, and the outside part, which I'm shading right now. Everywhere outside the boundary of the circle, that will be the third part of the plane, which is divided by the circle. Now the three parts are the inside of the circle, which is called the interior of the circle. So the three parts are inside the circle, which is called interior of the circle. Very important term. Interior of the circle. Right? So that is the first part which I shaded first. That's the interior part of the given circle. No matter which circle you draw on the plane, it will have the interior part. Second part is the circle itself. That is the boundary of the circle. Okay. So that is the second part. And the third part is outside the circle, which is called exterior of the circle. Outside the circle, which is called exterior of the circle. So these are the three parts of the circle. Interior, which is the inside region, the boundary of the circle, that is the circle itself, and the outside region, which is called exterior of the circle. Okay. Now, if you give me any one point, it is either inside the circle, it is on the circle, or it is outside the circle. So these are the only three possibilities that you can have. Okay. Now, moving ahead. Now, if I take a circle, let's say I draw a circle here and it will have some center. Okay, let's say this is the center. And on the circle, I mark any 2 points, let's say P here and Q here, and I draw a line segment joining them. Then this line segment is called chord of the circle. Okay, a line segment joining any 2 points on the circle is called chord of the circle. For example, in the circle which I have drawn, PQ is a chord. Okay. So a circle can have lots of chords. So if I mark A here and I join it here, then AB is another chord, right? BC is another chord. So these are different chords. Now, if there is a chord which passes through the center of the circle, then that is called diameter of the circle. Let's say from here there is a chord which passes through the center of the circle, and I will call it XY. Okay. So a chord which passes through the center of the circle, which passes through the center of the circle is called diameter. And the special thing about the diameter of the circle is it is the longest chord of the circle. Okay. So diameter is the longest chord of the circle. Very important. And a circle can have many diameters. So I can draw a line, a chord here which is passing through the center. So this I can name Mn. So Mn, for example, Mn and Xy are diameters of the circle, of this particular circle. So a circle can have infinitely many diameters. Also, another relation between circle and the radius, which we have already discussed, is if you see, radius is what now? Radius is basically distance from the center to the boundary of the circle. So if the center of the circle is here, O, this is one radius. OP is a radius. Okay. And if I take another radius on this side, let's say Q, OQ, then when you take two radii, that forms one diameter. Okay. All these are radii now. If I call this C, OC is a radius. OK is a radius. Now, what is the relation between radius and the diameter? Diameter of a circle is twice the radius of the circle. So, diameter is 2 times radius. This relation you have between diameter of the circle and the radius of the circle. Okay. Now, if you take any 2 points on the circle, let's say C and P, then this portion between P and C of the circle is called the arc of the circle. Okay, so arc is basically portion of the circle between any two distinct points. So what is an arc? The piece of a circle between 2 points is called arc of the circle. Is called arc of a circle. Now, if I let's say draw one more circle here. Okay, let's say this is the radius, and I will take a point here P, and I will take a point here Q. Now you will see that you can come from P to Q in this direction, or you can go outside the other way also. So there are basically two arcs. Okay, so the smaller arc is called the minor arc, and the bigger arc is called as the major arc. So there are two arcs. Okay, the smaller arc is called the minor arc, which is denoted by PQ or usually by this notation, And whenever you are denoting a bigger arc PQ, you will mark a point on the bigger side, let's say R, and the bigger R will be denoted as arc PRQ. So the bigger arc or the greater arc is called the major arc. And in this case, the major arc is arc PRQ. So this is the notation for PRQ or arc PRQ. Okay, so these are major arcs and minor arcs. Now moving ahead. Next, we have the length of the circle. So let's say you have one circle with you, which is made out of thread, let's say. And what I do now is I take a scissor and I will cut it here. I will cut this circle at this point, okay? And I will stretch the string. So the string which I had now, I have stretched it here. That is basically the length of the circle. So length of the circle is you cut it here and you open it up, okay? Like a line. So the length of the circle is called circumference of the circle. Again, an important term. The length of the circle is called circumference of the circle. Okay. Again, this is a very important term, circumference of the circle. Next, we have two terms called as segment and sector. Okay, so let's see what are segments and what are sectors of a circle. By a segment, I mean the region between a chord and an arc is called the segment of a circle. Okay, so the region between, let's say I have a chord here, I'll take this circle only. So this region between this chord and the segment is called between the chord and the arc is called segment of the region. Now if you see, there are two segments. One is the major segment and one will be the minor segment. Okay, so the region between the chord and the minor arc is nothing but the minor segment. So this is my minor segment here. And the region between the major arc and the chord is the major segment. Okay, so these are two segments that you have. One is called the minor segment and one is called the major segment. Now in the same way, you have something called a sector also. So these are segments. Sector of a circle is the region between two radii, any two radii you pick, and the arc is called the sector. Is called the sector of the circle. For example, now I'll draw a picture in which I'll show you a circle. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I'll have a circle here. And now what I'll do is I'll draw two radii for this circle. One is here and one is here. Right? So this region between two radii and the arc of the circle is called sector. So this is one sector. Again, you must have observed that there will be two sectors. So the region between two radii in the minor arc is called minor segment, minor sector, sorry. And this region, the other region, is called as the major sector. Okay. So sector is basically the region between two radii and the arc of the circle. Okay, so these were some basic terms of circle and some related terms. I hope the things are clear. If there is any question that you have, you can put it down in the comment box and I will surely answer those. Okay, so in the next video, I will carry on with the first exercise, exercise 10.1. Okay, thank you.